Just a quick reminder, guys, we are running Fallout Equestria tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the Fallout Equestria Dead Tree Volume 1 book is coming out next month. So just a quick reminder on the video. It would seem that recording my last video at the old apartment would be the first video I record in 2018. I was going to record a couple reviews, but in retrospect, I decided not to. The games I was going to review are a couple of indie games and Hitman 2. But the fact of the matter is, Hitman 2 is not going to win over people who were not already fans of Hitman, and the couple of indie games, two of them are good and one of them is just mediocre. What happened to video gaming in 2018? I mean, let's be honest. Video gaming in 2018 sucked. I've only done 7 Let's Plays on the channels from beginning to end in 2018. I attempted 11 and only finished 7 of them. In 2017, I had 14 completed Let's Plays for videos. That's not counting live streams, it's just videos. And 22 attempted. Exactly double. What happened? I mean, my channel didn't change that much. Looking back, I still do Let's Plays, I still do game reviews, I still do live streams with you guys, and I still do science videos. So what happened? To truly understand how we got here, we have to look at where it all came from and what companies have been doing for years. This is in addition to analyzing the forces acting upon the gaming industry right now that are supposedly creating a world in which us, the gamers, are viewed with disdain and told what to think while decisions are made that we as gamers don't want. Where did all this start? I mean, if I try to place it right here and now, we have microtransactions like Activision Blizzard's $1 red dot site. Fallout 76's multi-phase debacle that's gotten worse and worse and worse as the 2 months post-release have gone. There's so many issues with that game at this point, I can't even list them all. Then I remember, in 2016, World of Tanks brought a tank, a Sherman, to E3 to crush random things from fruits to cabinets to a car, all in celebration of a game's success. Now, we all laughed, but developers and publishers took note. Wargaming made a hit that keeps printing money. And I did a review of World of Tanks earlier this year, along with Armored Warfare, back in 2018, and both games have issues, but World of Tanks is pay to win, free to play. Even long-term contributors like QuickieBaggy have stated, yes, in its current state, and in the state it has been in for the entirety of its release up to this point, it has been pay to win. Taking that in hand, something else happened. Something no one expected. Grand Theft Auto Online became the most profitable piece of entertainment media ever. How much is that? It's estimated to have made $6 billion on a budget of $265 million. The entire Lord of the Rings franchise, including all 3 recent Hobbits films, according to Forbes magazine, made $5.82 billion. There you go. Grand Theft Auto 5's online experience is one of the most terrible money grabs to date. It is to the point that it's no wonder. Red Dead Redemption Online experience is set up exactly the same way. The whole point of which is to try and copy the success of GTA 5, because I have one thing you have to be acutely aware of when it comes to AAA games today. Stock prices. There's something that game companies do different than movie studios that they shouldn't be doing. They are publicly traded by shareholders, and those shareholders have a lot more say in what goes on in our video games than we do. Furthermore, the fact we are willing to buy substandard products at full price, and I've been rallying against this for years with different games that have come out, from buying into early access stuff to Star Citizen to PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, all of these games that are awful when they release, and yet I get told, oh, it'll get fixed months later, and I'm like, you're willing to pay for something in hopes it'll get fixed later? It's like buying a used car without an engine and hoping it gets fixed later. You wonder why Fallout 76 came out in the state it did. It's because we've been so forgiving of things that if it had happened in the 90s and early 2000s, imagine if Command & Conquer Red Alert had come out and Tesla coil towers hadn't worked. Imagine that. If it had come out and you had to go to some special website to download a patch. This is at a time, by the way, when a lot of us didn't have immediate internet connections and we had to use dial-up phones still. You had to download something to fix it. Imagine if that was the case. There's so many problems I can list here that are systematic issues with the gaming industry that it's just too much for one person to analyze in one video. It's simply gone too far, and it's wide-reaching and creeping into everything about this hobby. So let's unpack a little bit of this. Free-to-play games are making more money than traditional upfront pay games. Free-to-play games are making so much money and doing it better than traditional gaming models. Most MMOs today are free-to-play. In the past, they were paying upfront costs for the game and a subscription to keep logging in. World of Warcraft and EVE Online are the only two MMOs today that have kept that model and are still making money using that model. They have in-game microtransactions now too. Why? EVE Online's gameplay is entirely reliant upon PvP and differently designed with a purely player-run world. Everything about EVE is run by players. If you buy something on the market, a player listed it. If you go out into the world and want to claim territory, you have to claim it from other players. World of Warcraft grew to a player base of impossible size and has been maintained by adding more and more of what works from other MMOs into it, to the point that today logging into WoW was a confusing mess. I quit at Wrath of the Lich King. That was when WoW, in my opinion, was at its best. And today, they have Pokemon battles basically in-game. They have a fort you can build. All the other add-ons that have been added to the game at this point, it's mind-boggling. Back when I played WoW, you had 12 professions and you went on raids, and now people go on daily busy work. And people are seeing through it. Players have started to take notice of all the busy work being added to the Battle of Azeroth, and the mass reduction in player subscriptions, as well as the added-on microtransactions into World of Warcraft, has shown that players are starting to get sick of it. The fact that every new MMO I've heard of in the last decade has tried to be a WoW killer, and at this point is free-to-play or non-existent, is where they ended up. I'm not saying free-to-play games are inherently bad. They can be quite good so long as developers keep prices of individual items low and make sure to focus on cosmetics and non-gameplay based boosts. But what has happened with free-to-play is things like we've gone from XP boosters and cosmetics to damage boosters and additional raid chances and loot boxes that contain exclusive in-game items that give the player an innate advantage, and the only way to get them is a loot box. I mean, just look at World of Tanks and Star Trek Online, and you need not look further to see that loot boxes have infiltrated those games so heavily at this point, you may as well be playing a gambling simulator. But what's happened with free-to-play games and how they've become profitable has now gone into our AAA titles that we pay $60 up front for, and those expectations of profits are completely out of control. Call of Duty Black Ops 4, for all the criticisms we give COD players, is a good game on the surface. And then they added in the microtransaction store after everyone's reviews came out, so dozens of reviewers have had to take their reviews down and redo them once the microtransaction store that we all knew was coming was released into the game. Furthermore, this one example made $500 million, but Activision's stock price went down because of Black Ops 4. $500 million, and yet it can't make a sales goal. It was the game that sold the most copies of any game in 2018, and that wasn't enough? Why? They added more microtransactions. Activision Blizzard's added more microtransactions to Destiny 2. Overwatch got loot boxes back. The list goes on, and how they reacted to make more money to try to drive their falling stock price back up is insane. Stock price has been more of a driving factor in the gaming industry in the last 3 years than anything else. It has created some of the most amazing experiences, but has led to the downfall of so many studios that beloved game franchises and beloved game companies that had a chance to truly make something great are now gone. Let me give you some examples to compare and contrast to show you what stock price and what stocks are doing to the corporate entities of gaming. Chief Financial Officer of Blizzard, from Activision Blizzard, last year received $10 million in pay, $1.6 million in salary, and the rest of it was in stock options that he sold. The price to make Overwatch, Blizzard's most recent huge financial success, was between $15 and $25 million. Now, this doesn't include the cost of the failed and canceled Project Titan that had to fail in order for Overwatch to come into existence. But the cost of just making Overwatch was half of this guy's salary for a year. CEO Andrew Wilson of EA made almost $36 million last year. $32 million was from stock. Now, these are huge numbers, but let's put this in perspective. These people don't play the video games they make. They don't even play video games. They don't know how to program a game to begin with. They have no creative ability in their body. They have all business sense. Yet they work in a creative industry and make decisions for that creative industry. We see mass layoffs from Telltale Games or EA closing studios for one bad game release. Yet these individuals, their top salaries could fund entire game developments on their own that are multi-year development projects. To prove this point, Obsidian Entertainment crowdfunded the entire development of Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 and Tyranny for a measly $6 million. All three of these games were commercially successful to the point they have gold editions that were just released. And Microsoft, through their company Private Division, just purchased all the exclusive publishing rights from Obsidian Entertainment for close to $500 million. I want you to think about that for a minute. People in the gaming industry are spending and making more money than it costs developers to make the games that we play. And the developers have to spend 18 months to 5 years developing a good game. And yet these individuals have never touched any part of a video game beyond looking at numbers, statistics, metrics, and focus groups. Now, what does all this have to do with the gaming industry's problem? Well, the difference in the gaming industry and the way the movie industry funds its products. In gaming, we have three ways to fund and develop a game. Publishers with money, which is the traditional way movies get made, and movies still get made this way today, the publisher fronts the cost and then shares the profits from the product with the developer of it. If you can't get a publisher, you use option 2. Option 2 is crowdfunding or self-publication. These are acts of love. Undertale and Tyranny fall into these categories, but so does Star Citizen. And Star Citizen would require its own video just to analyze all of its issues, but for now, this is the two main ways games were made until very recently. Then in the last half a decade, EA proved you could make a whole lot of money and raw profit publicly trading stocks. They use this money to fund games, to publish said game, and use the sales to show growth of the company, which drives the stock price up, which encourages investors to buy more stock or keep their existing stock. This is how publicly traded companies work in the gaming industry, and it is innately flawed. See, in option 1, traditional publication, publishers make their money back from profit sharing. In the case of a bomb, well, the publisher has to eat the cost. But profit sharing between production studio and publisher is how they make their money and fund the creation of a movie. That's how they used to fund the creation of video games. There's a reason they don't use stocks. For stocks to become more valuable and therefore worth an investor purchasing, the company has to show growth and has to become a more valuable company. A lack of growth, especially not meeting projections and expectations, can devalue a stock. And as dissatisfied shareholders sell their interest in the company back to the company to get their investment back, they always hope to sell for more than they put in. This is why Black Ops 4 can sell $500 million in revenue and still be a failure. They didn't make their promise to the shareholders, and the shareholders decided to bail out rather than invest more money or keep their investment. The problem here is that there's a limit to the number of people who buy video games. You can't keep expecting more and more growth when you reach a certain apex. This is why so many gaming companies today are quote-unquote trying to tap into the Chinese market. China is a huge, somewhere between a third and half the world's population in that one country. And game developers are convinced that they can get into this market with all of this untapped resource. And I don't think they can. 1. And 2, I don't honestly see what they're talking about when they think they can make all this money here. But this is why video games keep trying to monetize more and more and more and more. They have to show constant increases in the amount of money they make year to year to year to drive those stock prices up to get people to buy more stock. If EA CEO made $32 million from stock options last year, think about it. He's never even played any of the games that his company makes. And this has led to some very dark places. Bethesda's constant debacle with Fallout 76 is evidence of this. All you have to do is turn on YouTube, that it spilled outside of our little bubble into the rest of the world who hasn't even heard of this. Yet we're surprised. The fact is, shareholders have led to Battlefield 5, Fallout 76, Metal Gear Survive, Extinction, and Red Dead Redemption's Online because we vote with our wallets. And by doing so over the last 4 or 5 years, we've cultivated the very gaming industry that is now failing us. For the last 2 years, the best-selling games and ones touted as most profitable are riddled with microtransactions, DLCs, season passes, different versions of the game for order, early access. There's all this stuff. They have tons of release day bugs and day one patches as large or larger than the game themselves. They're in the process of being put through early access, yet we as reviewers are criticized for pointing out their flaws in early access, and apparently post-release day now as well. You just have to look at the Fallout 76 subreddit to see reviewers are under flack for calling out the flaws of 76 and being told, you should wait till they fix everything. I don't mean to be rude, but they still have problems from Fallout 3 they never fixed. I don't expect them to fix 76. Even I get yelled at by these people, and they, some of my most loyal and dedicated fans, yet they're criticizing me for criticizing what is objectively a bad video game, for being just that, a bad video game. But it gets worse as successes of games are being chased by others to try to get that market that worked for like 3 months. Rather than being leaders, EA and Bethesda and Ubisoft and Konami, and there's just a long list of AAA publishers who are now not leading the charge, but trying to chase what other smaller developers have gotten to work. EA has Battlefield with the Battle Royale mode. Remember when EA said that single-player experiences were done and they weren't going to be doing them anymore? And then they made Battlefield 5, and while the majority of the campaign is legitimately terrible and overwrites much of World War II, and I hate to remind you guys, but Medal of Honor Underground already had a female protagonist, and she was a real person, and everything but the last bonus mission actually happened. Can we go back and say that again? Medal of Honor Underground in 1999 on the PlayStation 1 had a female World War II protagonist going through real-life events that she, as a French underground resistance and Office of Special Services operative, conducted. But my point here is, one of the best first-person shooter experiences I've ever played this past year was playing my friend's Battlefield 5 and playing The Last Tiger. It was emotionally gripping. It made me feel something astounding for the people who fought in this war. It was realistic, and it made me realize how much Germany sacrificed for a dream that was never going to be real. And yet, according to EA, single-player experiences are done. This aspect of this campaign will never receive the praise it's due. It will never get the recognition it deserves. The same goes for Prey by Bethesda. It was genuinely a good game. Yes, there was some backtracking and level design needed some additional work, but once you got past it, it was a Metroidvania-style campaign that was worth playing, that had meaningful decisions. Better decisions than I could have ever hoped for from Bethesda, and it genuinely gave me hope for the next Fallout game because Prey was good. And it showed us what was good about Bethesda before Fallout 4 and before Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, which in and of themselves deserve, again, their own video to truly unpack the mess that New Colossus was and the mess that Fallout 4 really is. God of War has been exceptional with every single installment, including the latest Dad of Boy installment, Game of the Year. Ubisoft's Edition Crazy with random pieces of swag, special items, is just another illustrated need to make more money on games. And the movie, and when they clearly make enough, since gaming is now making more money than the movie industry. Yet, God of War, this exceptional wonderful experience that's exclusive to the PlayStation 4 was in the same category as Assassin's Creed Odyssey for Game of the Year. Yes, Ubisoft made major improvements to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It made it genuinely a decent, unique experience. But how did these two end up as nominees for Game of the Year? What? These are questions we should be asking. Jim Sterling has been touting the gaming industry is heading towards a crash for nearly 2 years. A lot of people don't listen to him, me included a lot of the time. I find him hilarious. But I find some of his points to be a bit over the top. Yet, even now, I see the writing on the wall. Not this wall that's covered in bits of tape still from me taking down all the posters, but we're living in a slow spiraling crash, just as Atari did and the arcades did before the Nintendo came out. Very much doubt at this point the gaming industry will truly crash and burn, but at the same time, I don't know what to expect from 2019, and I'm not really hopeful that the Fallout series, one of my favorite game series of all time, will have a good next installment, if any at all. I wouldn't be surprised if I heard Fallout 5 was canceled. I wouldn't be surprised when Titanfall 3 is Respawn Entertainment's last game because EA owns them now and owns their IP, and no one's talking about Titanfall 3, and Titanfall 2 was actually good. I think at this point all BioWare has left is Dragon Age, and after Inquisition, I don't know where that franchise is going or how it will get there, and I have little hope overall for what's going to happen with it. Taking all this in, I just want to see video games made less by corporations, less by focus groups, and certainly less by stock shareholders. I want to have a conversation in the comments, but this is just the tip of the reasons why the gaming industry has devolved into sequel after sequel. Why it has been a genuinely terrible year, and honestly, why my expectations for 2019 are so exceptionally low. Just having a game release with no bugs and a half-decent story and 5 hours of gameplay seems like a bit much to ask. I'm focused on tabletop games because part of them is we create our own stories and adventures that are truly open-ended and up to our own devices. That's why Fallout Equestria has worked for 16 months. It's a once-a-week Wednesday night stream, but to date, all my merch is based on it. I've adapted my pony videos using the character that I play in that game, and it's permeated my channel as well as become the most popular thing I do. I hope that continues through 2019, and I'm placing my faith in the players who are with me and our GM Moonhoof to make that possible. The point here is, though, games like Fallout Equestria and 40K Tabletop shouldn't go down this path. I really fear that Games Workshop won't learn from what we're seeing in the video game industry today, and they're going to go down the same route, and that hobby will suffer much, much worse, because a bad release from that hobby can mean the end of a gaming franchise very quickly. One very, very excellent example is we were talking about playing Firestorm, and then Spartan Games just had a bad release with Firestorm Planetfall and nuked all of it. You guys remember when I was in the boarding house, I was painting those Firestorm models as a part of a live stream, just sitting here painting them, and they went away because all support for the game died the moment they had a bad release. This is just one aspect of the gaming industry's problems, and depending on how this video does, I may go over the other pieces I've mentioned, from the way corporatization has ruined games to how the metrics publishers gather aren't telling the whole story of why the game is successful, to how the most successful game of 2018 was Fortnite, and why. But what are your thoughts on how games are being published as opposed to movies, and why does the stock price shareholder publication method not work for video games? Or do you think it works and that there's a way to make this functional again? Recently, I haven't by the way, I haven't produced as much content as I normally do. And this is due to a combination of burnout and priorities getting set up to move during the holiday. So I want to make a promise to you guys, as of today, that I want you to hold me to either a science video, 2 game reviews, or an analysis video like this every week. No exceptions. 52 videos, 52 weeks. If I don't deliver, I want you guys to terrorize me. And I want you guys to hold me to this. This is my resolution to you guys. Once a week, either 2 game reviews, a science video, or an analysis video like this. Period. No matter how much I might complain, no matter how down I might feel, no matter what holidays or conventions are coming up, I want you guys to push me back to work on this stuff at a reasonable rate again. This is in addition to the story chapter or the short story I'm supposed to have out every week. That's my bad. I need to fix that. We had it fixed for December for a little bit, and then it stopped because holiday madness and moving. So seeing this final picture at this desolate apartment, yeah, everything's gone. Look at that clothes basket. Yeah, that clothes basket. That's all the clothes I have here right now. That's it. Everything's gone. But I want to get back to working on stuff at a reasonable rate and getting it out. So let's see, you guys, if you guys want more analysis like this. Hit the like button. Seriously. If we get 100 likes or 100 comments, I'll agree to keep this series going. I'm not going to set a date on that, but, you know, see what you guys can do. And I'll see you tomorrow for Fallout Equestria at 9 p.m. And remember, the book is coming out next month. You may want to take a look at to see if you want that. Because that Volume 1 is going to determine if I can do Volume 2, 3, and 4. Anyway, see you guys next time.